storm shower fails to break through the surface of a lake. Heaven's face had grown hard and cold in its perilous beauty, like that of a classical statue. Her eyes blazed with white fire, her mouth pressed into a hard and unmerciful line. For the first time, I saw her not as my best friend from back home, as the woman I'd always loved, but as a true warrior in her own right. Someone who deserved to be part of our group as much as anyone else. At that moment, I saw her come to her true power. I saw her manifest that potential that always had lain hidden beneath her doubt and humility. Emma lowered Victor's blade so that it pointed directly at where Asmodeus stood, only for him to vanish. Emma immediately swept Victor's blade to the left, and a pulse of coruscating light flashed from its tip, slamming into Asmodeus mid-sprint and lifting him off the ground. He was cuffed by his crimson ward, but hit with such force he flew a dozen yards before crashing down onto his side and sliding through the loam, leaving a furrow in his wake. What the fuck? He hissed, staring at the white fire which died away, his crimson ward fading with it. Heaven fire? Emma didn't respond. She flew forward like the personification of justice, her hair still whipping about her head, her whole being radiating power. Asmodeus snarled, flipped up onto his feet, disappeared once more. Emma whipped her sword to the right, blasted another bolt of heaven fire, and caught Asmodeus again, knocking him out of his invisible state and smashing him to the ground. Again, his ward stopped the attack from reaching his skin. Again, he slid a dozen yards through the muck and filth. This time he climbed slowly to his feet, wiping dirt from his arms, furious, his movements now barely controlled. Who the fuck are you? Emma continued to float toward him, Victor's blade a glowing brand by her side. Don't you know? Are you the real savior? Asmodeus pressed his palms together, drew them apart, and in doing so, seemed to pull a huge crimson blade from his right palm. It was a yard long, more of a massive butcher's blade than a sword, and crimson light dripped from its edge. No, I'm not the savior. I'm Emma Haney of Ruddock, Ohio. Your time's up, Emperor Asmodeus. His lips pulled back from his perfect teeth in a silent snarl. He crouched, huge blade at the ready, then launched himself at Emma, again moving faster than I could follow. Emma pointed Victor's sword directly at him and unleashed a torrent of heaven fire, a veritable cavalcade of power that brought Asmodeus back into view a mere yard from him. He parried with his crimson sword. The attack carried such potency that his blade melted before the white light in seconds. Asmodeus screamed, bringing up his crimson ward, and for another few seconds managed to stand there, arms crossed as he leaned into her attack. His crimson ward grew thicker, more concentrated by the moment, until it flickered out and was gone. His death was instantaneous. Emma's beam of heaven fire washed over him, disintegrating his torso and head, removing them from existence. Cut off her attack. In its wake, the cavern seemed hopelessly dark, plunged into shadow. I saw Asmodeus' legs topple over, their tops cauterized. Then Emma was by my side, kneeling like some visiting angel, her hair and clothing still whipped by some private hurricane, her eyes yet burning with heaven fire. Emma, managed to croak, lost in wonder and amazement. Shh, she whispered. White light flooded my mind, suffused my racked and torn body. It flowed through me, bending all that it touched, restoring my shoulder, countless contusions and cuts, knitting together my knee, washing away the pain. Like any healing I'd received before, or Anahata would force my body to heal itself. bringing about a prickling, burning pain of its own. This simply soothed, eased my aches, washed away the agony. In moments I was able to sit up, restored, energized, feeling as if I'd spent a weekend at a health spa instead of coming within an inch of dying. Well, I said again, feeling awed, lost for words. What is... How? I can't hold this for much longer, she said, and turned toward the others. It's too much. It's slipping. I leaped to my feet, slid an arm around her waist. What can I do? Before it leaves me, one last pulse. And she raised her hand, and from her fingertips flared a white light that washed over us all. Over Naviya trapped under her rock, over Brielle curled up on her